Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
Well, by now you have heard the news. Yes, President Joe Biden has chosen to step out of the race and has endorsed Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee. Now, this is going to be quite a drama, this election. One of the reasons why we are a bit surprised. Number one, the way he announced it was historic in itself. He used social media. And this was different than a big announcement on network TV. Instead, what voters got was an email or a text message on their phone. And that was kind of personal. But also, we know that this has been in the makings, because if you were on the list as a Democratic voter, you've been getting the surveys asking you, number one, are you still supporting Joe Biden over these past few weeks, especially after the debates? And then you were also getting questions, would you support Kamala Harris if she were the nominee? And that kind of gave us a hint that that's an idea that has been seriously considered. And of course, we have to address the elephant in the room. Is America ready to face its prejudice against females and African Americans and even Asians? Because, of course, Kamala also is Southeast Asian. And are we ready to talk about it openly? Or are we going to skirt around the issue and pretend like that's not really the thing that everybody's afraid of when it comes to taking the sitting vice president and having her become the nominee for president? Well, sisters, let's talk about it. And let's take a look at some of the things that might be said during this historic election this year.
Well, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of sound mind and of discipline. And I find that people who are exhibiting those fears, like, oh no, it's not our typical person we've had for the last whatever years. People operate out of fear when they make these comments, not recognizing that the Constitution, when it was written, was supposed to be for any qualified American to run as head of state. Now, I know some people are going to be falling out saying, oh, it's a woman, blah, blah, blah. You know, I think we need to get over that fear of someone not like ourselves. After all, the world is changing, the nation is changing, and the young people are changing. We have a diversified world, and I think that the people who are running in fear that they're going to be moved out of any kind of situation, those people need to stop operating on that, on false lies, on tales, on fantasies, on fairy tales, on stereotypes and rumors that they've always fed themselves with. And I think that it is important as an American citizen to recognize that your vote is going to make a major difference in a lot of the things that are going on in your neighborhood personally. Is your garbage being picked up? Do you have grocery stores in your neighborhood that are easily accessible? Do you have good schools and playgrounds for your kids? These are the things that being involved in the voting process makes a difference. And whether or not the person that you voted for wins as the new president, there are still local elections that make a major difference to things that are happening in your locale. I think that people need to just get over the fear, recognize their prejudices, recognize their bigotry, and recognize that there are policies that you want to stand up for, and not look at a person's gender or skin color and make that be the basis of why you vote or don't vote. And I think for young people, this is going to be an exciting time. I know my kids got a chance to vote for President Barack Obama, and that was really monumental. And I think we have another opportunity to exercise our right as citizens to make a difference. Cheryl?
Well, I have several thoughts here. Many thoughts. Many thoughts. One, I was always a Kamala Harris fan. I know not everyone is. In fact, when Vice President Harris took the oath of office, 3.5 years ago, I was watching. In fact, I was like watching at the same time, as Zakia was, my niece. And I was so moved. I actually, and given the fact that I am a crybaby, but I actually started crying. And my fantasy was that Joe Biden would win again, take a year, and then step aside. However, as someone who teaches young people, college students, we had talked, I had a semester like last year, and where we had talked about Joe Biden, and so many of the kids then said, well, he's too old. And that has been a an overriding theme, even before people were calling him Genocide Joe because of his unwavering support for Israel's um, annihilation of Palestinian people and the Gaza and the West Bank and all the other things that have been going on since October 7th. There are people in the Arab community, Arab American community, who voted or uncommitted because of him. One of the people I admire, activist Linda Sarsour, who has a magnificent book, by the way, said she would never vote for Joe Biden. And she seemed to allude to the fact that this was also playing a part in people saying, we just can't win, even though the other person's um, policies were going to be worse for the Palestinian people. Uh, think about the Muslim ban. However, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I'm not going to lie. Excuse me. I think that this could, if we are smart enough to coalesce around her the way the other party has coalesced around a felon, um, we can win this. You can get the young vote. You can obviously get maybe the Southeast Asian vote, the Black women vote. Maybe there will be Black men who embrace something other than the patriarchy, which which has been, polls have suggested, has been moving more Black men toward Trump, even though he's very racist. Maybe there are Black people who call themselves evangelicals who might coalesce, as far as, and even white women who didn't vote for Hillary, who now see that their sense of even health care and bodily autonomy are being threatened. Maybe they will let go of their embrace of whiteness and of the white patriarchy enough to think about voting for their own and their daughter's interests. So there are a lot of people who can come together not just to vote against someone, like the protest vote of third party like Cornel West or Jill Stein or Robert Kennedy Jr., which is it's really a vote that will, move the needle more toward the other guy. I won't say his name. Um, and I think that this is an opportunity for us to move beyond race and gender, because there are a lot of places already that are saying we're not ready for this. We're not ready for a black woman. We weren't ready for a white woman. We aren't ready. Well, you know what? Are we really ready for a felon? Are we really ready for a felon? A person who still has indictments against him? Are we ready to be led by a criminal? And you have to think about that. Plus, she's younger. She's younger. She has more energy. She's already said, I plan to earn this nomination. She's not taking something that is given to her. She's much more qualified already than Trump. Oh, shoot, I said it. Well, let me spell it this way: T capital RUMP. So I'm hoping after the initial reaction that we start to think as a party, as people who can vote for democracy, because democracy still is on the line. Our rights are still on the line. Project 2025 still is a real threat. White nationalism is still a real threat. Now, if you are a person of color and your whiteness is what is spurring you to vote for Trump, and people will not admit that, but if that is what it is, you are also going to be hurt. At some point, someone in your family is going to be hurt by Project 2020. If you are a person who is brown and speaks Spanish, you might be swept up in one of those deportation links, whether or not you are even an American citizen. So we really have an opportunity here to do the right thing, and I'm I'm excited by it. In fact, I'm not gonna lie. I already went out and contributed $100 today. Today.
Well,
So
that's one thing.
Address something that people have misconstrued. You need to do your research, because I know that there are some people who are bound maybe to vote one way by one policy or maybe two policies. And I know that the pro life, pro abortion thing is a very strong element that makes people maybe vote for a felon because he says, oh, I'm pro life, and not vote for the other because she says she is pro choice. But let me tell you statistically, and you can look this up for yourself. Statistically, when Democrats are in office, there are fewer abortions all across the board. And when Republicans are in office, there are more. And I will tell you why. It is a psychological thing that people are afraid that their right to get an abortion is being denied when Republicans are in office. And so they will hurry up and, they will maybe double think this thing, and you will have more women taking that thought in their head that they don't have a real choice. But when Democrats who are saying they are pro choice are in office, women are relaxed. There is no pressure. And I think you need to look statistically that if you are voting because of a policy based on pro life, you need to see where that ends up statistically and historically.
Also, because of that, see what people don't understand, it's not just about choosing whether or not to terminate a pregnancy, because sometimes and this has happened many times already since they've had the abortion bans, because doctors have been threatened with prison or losing their licenses, they have to wait for women to bleed out in the parking lot or become septic, because uh before they can do something to save their life. And as someone who had a miscarriage, and in the state of Florida, I had a miscarriage, and they had to do the DNC, which would have been considered an abortion. And I'm not ashamed of that, because the fetus had died, and they took the fetus to keep me from becoming septic. If I had become septic, I either could have died or have lost my chance to have my daughter now. So this is the thing. No matter what you feel, it's still healthcare. And the Project 25 and all of these other policies that the Republicans are talking about, they're also talking about limiting birth control. They're talking about limiting a lot of other rights that you have. They're talking about imprisoning women. It's not just about states' rights, it's about health care. And anytime you have laws that will uh, legislate against one gender's biology, by doing nothing for the men, by saying, oh, yeah, but we don't try to control men's bodies, women don't become pregnant on their own. And that's just one of the policies. There are so many that are horrendous for other people, for people of color, for all even white women. This is the thing, is that it is trying to establish the white male patriarchy that uh, started this country. That we have politicians that are talking about limiting women's right to vote. So we have to start thinking. And instead of saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to vote now because I just don't like Kamala. You know what? If you don't like her, don't invite her to your house. you know,
You know,
it's
I,
really ridiculous, as if it's a personality contest, because you don't like her personally, even though you may like your freedoms, but because you don't like her. And we heard the same thing. Well, I just don't like Hillary. Well, Hillary is, you not voting for Hillary is the reason why we have Supreme Court justices that are limiting that have tried to or are limiting affirmative action, that have limited voting rights, that have limited women's rights. And that's because you didn't like Hillary. And I keep telling people, The Handmaid's Tale is a documentary.
That
you
is
know,
such
I
a
have been
you
listening to a lot of.
you.
I've been listening to a lot of extreme emotions surrounding this election, especially coming off the heels of the Republican National Convention. And in our news website, on their daily news, I did an editorial about the whole TRUMP situation. But if we're not careful, we could easily get goaded into becoming hysterical and not thinking clearly, because so many things that we worry about what one candidate may do or another are things that don't necessarily affect our daily survival. The fact is, no
Yeah.
matter who gets in office, what affects your daily life, you're going to the grocery store, you're uh, being able to buy a pair of shoes, you're getting diapers for your baby. I mean, those basic things are not going to change.
Right.
But people get whipped into an enraged
Frenzy.
situation, enraged state, believing that the other people, whoever you are, whether you're Republican or Democrat, those other people are going to take away my freedoms and they're going to destroy the country. And really, there is nothing stopping anybody from doing some basic things, such as interacting with their own neighbors and working together, coordinating things like making sure your neighbors are okay, sharing
Co-op.
you're going through difficulties. There's nothing stopping us from creating the kind of cohesive, cooperative communities that can function no matter who is in office. There's nothing stopping us, actually. But when people keep you hyped up, and that's what the news media is designed to do, keep you hyped up and angry and frustrated and fearful so that you can't think and you become a reactor, then they can pretty much get you to do anything. And I understand that politics is about, raising money to pay to get your message out and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I knew that whatever happens, it's a fundraiser. And somehow I ended up on the Republican list as well as the Democratic list. So
delete.
He's giving me, he's doing this. He's going to destroy the nation. Give money. If President Trump does something, the Democrats are sending me emails. Oh, President Trump just did this. We need to beat him and keep him out of money. Former president. And the thing, and I understand this is an opportunity for people to express their views. And we did note that the Clintons came out early on and supported Kamala Harris. That's great. Some people haven't quite made that commitment yet, but I think this, in a real sense, does bring to the surface the underlying, whether it's fear, and I don't think it's fear that she's not qualified because she's Black and a woman. I think it's fear that she might be so qualified and overqualified that she makes those other people, white males, feel a bit inferior. Because they've been living off of this pretense of we're smarter, we're stronger, we're better. And then when somebody who's brilliant, and she has the gift of gab, she can hold her own in a debate. If she actually steps up, and because she's been real low key, not wanting to give the impression on, I'm trying to, move on in and snatch power. She's been very low key, but now that it's been handed to her, she can go on and be who she is. She can be the strong, powerful woman that she is. The question is, are people going to be able to stand it when somebody doesn't shrink so they can feel bigger? And that's the prejudice that's underlining when we are powerful beyond measure and we don't shrink and try to make it seem like we're of lesser strength than we are, we're of lesser intelligence than we are, we're of lesser skill than we are. When we don't shrink so that somebody else can hold on to their delusions of superiority, how will that be received by all people? Yes. But especially those who have been used to having that delusion work in their favor. So I'm grateful that this is happening. I believe she is very strong, very intelligent, very capable, and can shatter all the myths that some of us still hold about ourselves. We got more women that supported Trump.
Yep.
The T word, right? That supported him, supported the former President Trump, then supported Hillary Clinton because they didn't feel that a woman was capable because of how they feel about themselves. So we got to face that also. How do we feel about
I would like to also address the fear that people have where they are dependent upon their country being their savior. And this is to my fellow brothers and sisters in the Lord, or evangelicals, or, Christ followers, all these people. What we have learned is that the flag should never be above the cross. We have people who say they are believers that have become so divisive over who they vote for, who they support, what policies they stand behind. This is stupid. Your basis of foundation should be Christ. And you cannot your answers are never going to come from Washington. Yes, there are different things that can change things for the better for people in our country who are underserved, who are marginalized, who are not treated well. But at the same time, the flag is not your savior. Your
Well,
president
let me
is not your
before we
savior.
go, unless you all want to make this an hour long show.
Our
Because we have a comment here from Dr. Brown who says, I do not plan on voting. I will take my chances with Almighty God. And he says, I am a Christ follower. Amen. He says, and I don't know what you think that means in terms of your civic responsibility
absolutely.
to select
Right.
your leadership. That
You
is
know
a
what?
God's
responsibility.
not running.
You
as
know
a
what?
citizen.
Exactly. And let me tell you something. Your voice is your vote. And your voice matters and your vote matters and you matter. So if you decide not to vote, you are saying, I don't matter. My voice doesn't matter. And so, you're very welcome not to vote, but I don't want, even if my choices don't win, at least I had a chance to make my choice. And this
Right.
is the thing, is that saying I won't vote, okay, then you don't complain when someone takes away your rights because you have already given them away. And let me tell you something else, especially all of us Black folks out here, and our dear departed father had to fight for his right to vote. And there are a lot of folks who are hung from trees because they wanted to vote. You know what? If you are in this country and your ancestors had to fight for the right to vote, you are spitting on their graves by not voting, because if your vote wasn't important, they wouldn't try so hard to take it away from you.
That's true.
Well, now let's see if we can get a response to Viada's response. She said, no, no, no. Kamala has clearly demonstrated word salads and other entertaining qualities, but no leadership qualities. She'd make another great puppet leading the way on abortion rights. Okay, so that's what Viada says. And there are people, and I get it, everybody who's got an issue either for or against abortion. But my question is this: why are you all up in everybody else's business? Are you planning on getting an abortion anytime soon? If you're not, then why are you worried about what somebody else is doing? A, and B, why are we believing that abortion is necessary when, if we as women would take responsibility, and men take responsibility, but women knowing your body's rhythmic cycles the same as every other female on the planet, that is not something hard to do. If we would get rid of that ridiculous belief about sexuality being dirty and wrong and sinful and all that, and learn our bodies, then this would not even be a debate. We would know how to not get pregnant. Period. So
that's
that's my position on that. And I think one of the major things that this whole abortion thing gets into, it comes about people having a judgment on other people's sexuality. Again, why are you all up in everybody else's business? Why is it being legislated? Why is it being a major issue? Why are we not taking responsibility? And why are we not teaching what we could be teaching to our young sons and daughters so that they could make responsible decisions? Because we do have the capacity to do that. We just think we don't, but we really do.
But even beyond that, you know what? Let's just table the whole abortion question, because it really is not your business. It's not your body. It's about you legislating somebody else's choices. And let's be fair, it really is. You know what happened to me is nobody else's business. Nobody else had to weigh in but me, my husband, and the doctor who was helping me. And that's the same way with everyone else. But it's not even just about that. Who are you going to trust with climate change? Who are you going to trust with infrastructure? Who are you going to trust with healthcare? Who are you going to trust with your senior citizen benefits, where people are talking about cutting Social Security and privatizing it? Who are you going to where wealthy people are getting these tax cuts? Who are you going to talk about deregulation? Who are you going to trust about deregulation? Within our communities, we have so much environmental injustice. with plants, with poison water, with poison air. These are the things that have to be addressed. And you can't just say, well, my gas prices are higher, so and my grocery prices are high this time. But yeah, your gas prices were low under that other guy was because he allowed COVID to ravage our country and nobody was going anywhere for 2 years. So of course, so nobody was driving. So of course the prices were lower. So so we have to think about something other than the business. You have to think about the daily issues and the issues that are going to affect the next generations. Do we want universal child care? Do we want universal health care? Do we want to keep sending bombs, to Israel? Do we want
Well,
to?
this is an issue I think
Well,
that
I think the most important thing is to look at the character of the people that you're voting for, nationally
Yes,
and locally. Do you want someone who, every time they opens their mouth, they are inciting riots, hatred, division, uh, lies? Do you want someone who can be measured in their speech, someone who can control their tongue, someone who is a good representative of the country? Do you want a mature person? Sometimes you need to recognize that the character of your person is going to come out in the way they pull through and follow through with certain policies. Sometimes you need to recognize the importance of the character of the person that you are supporting. Would you have this person teach your Sunday school?
would you have
let
them?
me make a point about a specific when it comes to character and judgment, and none of these people are saints with a halo, and
No,
all of them make decisions based on the financial interests of America. And this is why there are many people who, even though they don't like some of the, I guess you'd say, character issues that Trump has, they don't like the war decisions that the Democrats made under Joe Biden. And he's got a real struggle. He had a real struggle getting the Muslim support because they felt that he was not strongly acknowledging what was happening to the Palestinian people. And
absolutely.
there are financial interests that go with those political policies that are made. And sometimes those things don't change no matter who's in office, because the people who finance this nation, the corporate interests, they don't ever change no matter who's in office. That's why the people can't be naive about this when we're getting jerked around and fighting each other over uh, political parties, and the same people are pulling the strings on both sides. So if we're not wise enough to see when we're being manipulated into agreeing to things that are hurtful, or maybe even dismissing something that's helpful. Because Donald Trump, yeah, he said some things that I know I wouldn't want him teaching any kind of spiritual lesson based on some things he said about women that were egregious. But then he reflects an attitude that a lot of men have. So where is that coming from, and what is our responsibility to fix that in our culture so that doesn't become something acceptable? And Dr. Brown said, yes, that's true. I'll pray on it. And I know that there are a lot of things that people can say about Donald Trump, that where he did some things that were helpful to some people. There are some things that Joe Biden did that were helpful to some people. And there are some things that both of them did that were hurtful to some people. So neither one is a demon or an angel. But
Well,
if you mentioned some specific policies, Cheryl, and I think that's what people need to know. What things do you support? What ideology do you have? And so you don't get caught in the politics of personality, but what things does this person stand for that I agree with? And sometimes the party that you back doesn't agree with things that are major issues for you ethically, and you got to know that, and not just, well, but they're a Democrat, oh, well, they're a Republican. And then sometimes it comes down to even looking at some other
With your
offices.
ticket.
The Green Party, people say they can't win, but sometimes they might be actually spouting more of what people believe in than either party.
Well, this is what one person said. It says when you're voting for someone, you're not looking to fall in love. You are looking to get to a destination. And what you're not going to do is if you don't get the destination that you want, and I'm much more progressive than anybody who's ever run, with maybe except for maybe AOC, uh, that or Elizabeth Warren.
I'll be the vice president. Hey.
Yeah, you know, they say what it is, you take the bus to as close to your destination as you can get. Because Joe Biden ran as a moderate, yet he has pushed and he has gotten more progressive policies than any other president. He canceled, he did get some of the student loan debt, and people didn't want that, and I had no problem with it. And there are other things that he managed to do to help people, that the Democrats are not good at tooting their own horns the way they need to be, but they also need to listen. The thing is that you can't listen necessarily to this one thing that you don't like and say, okay, well, not going to vote, or I'm going to vote for the other guy, or I'm going to vote for, a third party that isn't even going to be on the ballot. You have to think about who's going to get you closer to your destination, and then you are going to vote locally to those people who are your state and your local representatives, and they are going to get you to the destination that you need to be. Now, it's easy for me to say I'm in a solid blue state, so but a lot of times people who are in red states, they don't have those same choices. But we have to make sure that we make those choices. You're not going to get everything, but you got to get something. And if you're basing your thing on just the red or the blue, and yeah, I don't like this guy, but uh that's the party I grew up following, so I'm just going to follow him anyway. You have to think, what are you giving up and what are you choosing? Look at you, like you all both said, do your research. Look at look for what the Democrats are going to do. They've got a convention coming up. Look for what their policies are going to be. No matter who ends up being on that ticket with Vice President Harris.
So now let's take a look at that, because and again, looking at the fact that people do have belief systems that they have followed, and you mentioned AOC. Yeah, I'd love her to be vice president. She's one of my favorites, but we know that there's a mindset that people have, and Dr. Brown says his state will probably end up going red. And he said, I just pray there'll be peaceful transition of power, whoever gets elected. And that's another thing that people are putting that thought out there, that if one person or another gets elected, it's going to be a riot, it's going to be chaos. Another fear-based manipulative thing that we're having done. And threats.
And threats.
And he has, what is the opinion of voting for a third party? I think, because you got to look at the history of the Democratic and Republican Party. What was the first party? The Whigs, before
the Tories.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like we've always just had these two parties, but people have to, again, have the courage to vote for their convictions and not for a structure that has been organized around very efficient fundraising, but doesn't necessarily represent all of their philosophies that they believe in. Now, but the Green Party, again, they might have policies that I like, but they also have a responsibility to build a stronger organization, because just taking votes from people, or just being out there isn't effective if you haven't built an organization that people can believe in and support and actually put in office. And that's the responsibility of anybody who's building a party, to actually make it functional so that it is a viable option.
That's true. And can I say something about that? The thing is that we don't hear about who Jill Stein is except once every 4 years. What does the Green
Mhm.
Party stand for? Where do they even where do they campaign? Yeah, I couldn't pick Jill Stein out of a lineup, and I don't know who she is, and we only see that name, and so it ends up being a protest vote. And if you're like me and you're in a solid blue state, okay, that's fine. But if you're in a swing state, and that is what pushed, a lot of, a lot of those protest votes have ended up swinging because because people who are more progressive are going to vote, and they can safely do that. But you also may end up with a President Trump because of those swing voters who decided to go that way instead of voting for Mike. Or, I think there was another one, that it ends up changing, but not for what you think it does. And like I said, if the Green Party is for something, I never hear anything. I've never gotten one bit of literature. I've never gotten one email. I've never gotten one text. All
Well,
even
they've
even
been kind of like a one issue party with the climate change and all that
yeah,
and the ecology, which is an important thing. But again, you can't take one thing and not really have a whole platform on everything that you're
Yes.
constantly
yeah,
promoting. And like you said, it can't be like every 4 years. It's got to be building a party, building an organization for
Over
each
time.
over
over
time in between
time.
elections in order to be viable. And
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 not even
and
just the money thing. It's about, getting out there. Cornell West is another one. He's a name, and people say, well, yeah, I'm going to vote for him. That's fine. I haven't seen one campaign thing he's done. RFK Jr., I've heard him. He's more going on name recognition. And some of his stuff is pretty wacky that's out there. And that's the thing is that if you come up out of the, you know, Netherlands or the ether every 4 years, and or every once in a while say, okay, I'm going to run for this. What do you actually stand for? You haven't actually even put any work in. Jill Stein has been running I don't know how many times, and like I said, I couldn't pick her out of a lineup because I never hear anything about her from her. Even when they had all those people running for the Democratic uh, campaign, when Biden won, where was Jill Stein? Where was Jill Stein anywhere? At least,
yeah.
at least I know who Marianne Williamson is. I wouldn't
And
vote for
another
her.
important thing people need to recognize is that it takes generations of voting a certain way to see change. No, the person you want may not win. Don't give up and say, oh, well, I ain't voting. Blah, blah, blah. You
I'm gonna
got to
vote,
be consistent, especially locally. Especially locally.
especially locally, all the
And
time.
that's
Go out
really
and vote
where
for everything. Go out and vote for alderman or alderwoman or councilman or city council, whoever you have. If they have a dog catcher, go out and vote for dog catcher. Go out and vote, and because that is your voice. And if you're not going to say anything, then when someone comes and start taking away things from you and taxing you on things that they're not taxing the rich folks for, and you're going to see your tax bill go up and your grocery bill go up. And meantime, the millionaires and billionaires are making bank. Don't say anything because this is what you signed up.
yes,
Not making a decision is a decision.
absolutely. But Dr. Brown says, of course, last time he voted for president was for Bernie Sanders, and I think Bernie might have been one of the ones that came out for Kamala Harris. I know the Clintons did, and
Yeah,
they mentioned that President Obama, former president, whatever. Uh,
no, that one you can still say President Obama.
yeah, he'll always be my president, right?
He's always my
but
president.
but he did thank Joe Biden for his service. They noticed that he did not come out with an endorsement, but then everybody's kind of weighing what the response on. I don't know if you all got the surveys on your cell phone or the
I didn't get
emails
those surveys. I
asking
just
you.
got everybody asking me for money.
Well,
Everybody
yeah, that too. But
who
they
is
but they
running,
were Yeah, they always ask for money.
Who is
But over these
running
last few
the
days,
country knows me, and they're all asking for money.
you know, because politics is perpetual fundraising as well.
Yes, it
But
is.
they did, I noticed over the last few weeks, kept running these surveys, you know, are you still supporting Joe Biden? And then lately, would you support Kamala Harris as Democratic nominee? When I started getting those last week, I'm like, okay, this is a serious conversation, not just rumor. And they want to gauge what is the public's feeling about it. So apparently, there's enough pluses. There's been enough positive response where apparently the party feels like they can make a case for her. But now, what do you bet that she ends up selecting a white male as a running mate, because the belief is going to be that you got to make those other people comfortable?
Yes, and there are several names, even though there's also white women like Gretchen Whitmer. Uh, and I wouldn't mind, my dream ticket is going to be, it would be Kamala and Elizabeth Warren, especially now that we have a Democratic governor, so we wouldn't lose that Senate seat. I'm always thinking. But Secretary Pete Buttigieg is a possibility. People have said Gavin Newsom, the governor of California.
I think our governor's name has been thrown out there, Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Bashir from
he's a pretty good person. I think I would feel comfortable with him being vice president.
That depends on who's on that other side, and that may change some minds. But the thing is, what annoys me is that when this country gets in trouble, they want Black women to save them. They're always saying, "Oh, Black women are going to save us," but they want us to save everybody, but they also want us to be invisible when we do it. They want us, they want us to take everything and be on their backs, but then they want us to just do it and then take no credit for it. So it'll be interesting who is selected, because she did say she wants to earn this nomination, not just have it handed to her or shoved down her throat. But actually, they said that that's the only way that they could release the money, because she was already on the ticket. Barbara, who are some of the people you've been thinking about while we wait for Naima?
Really, I've been so involved in promoting my new book that's out on Amazon.
We're not doing that today.
Yeah, but I am not, I try to be the kind of person that does a little bit of research on the things. I get a bunch of flyers in the mail. I hang on to them because they're people I don't know. I read what they have done in the past, what they are proposing to do. I make my selections like that. I have never voted a straight party ticket for as long as I remember. I've always split my ticket.
I have voted straight, but I have also split. It depended. I have voted for Republicans in local elections in the past when I did not like what the Democrat was standing for at the time.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm also in a much more progressive state. So the Republicans were more progressive, in some ways. But it's just going to be interesting, because in the way that it will worry some of the people who say, "Oh, we just handed it to Trump." There are a lot of people who are more concerned about Biden's age, that they don't have that anymore. Now they have to think, "Okay, I like his policies, but I'm not sure he's going to be up for the job." Okay, well, these were the policies that Kamala Harris also was in on, and she was doing a lot of things. I know with Naima, who has met her several times, and I want to ask her about that, because she has been traveling around the country. She has been going to college campuses. She has been trying to engage. So I would be interested to see if this galvanizes not just the Democratic Party, but maybe people who were never members, maybe people who were who can set aside their prejudices. And there's certain things that this country does for women that they don't. They didn't like, Hillary's whatever. She was too this,
Yeah.
she was too that. And it was more of a personality. And now they say, oh, we don't like Kamala's laugh. Well, what does that have to do with anything?
What has that got to do with anything?
Very,
What do the students think? What are their opinions?
well, I'm right now because I just finished, but I know that when I did talk to my students, they did not think Joe Biden, and this is like last year even, and they kept saying, oh, he's just too old. And I think that there were a lot of people who got that feeling after the debate, and it wasn't just that he was just not there. He couldn't counter on a lot of the things. And like some of I listen to Pod Save America. That's my crooked media podcast with a lot of the people who do who were from the Obama administration, and they're on this podcast. And afterward, they said, he had one job and he didn't do it. And that was the thing, and that was to reassure voters. Okay, he's 81 years old. I know some very strong 80-year-olds, but I know some people who just are not. And I wouldn't want them running the country. And it's not just running the country, even though I would have voted for him. I would have voted for him because I knew Kamala was there, because he did have a strong VP.
Yeah.
So for me, and I was not going to vote for Trump, and I was not going to throw away my vote on a third party, and I certainly not going to stay home. Voting for a felon is a non-starter for me. Voting for someone who is full of hatred and bigotry is a non-starter for me. Voting for someone who speaks about his own daughter in a sexual manner is a non-starter for me. Voting for someone who is anti-Muslim, anti-brown immigrant, who has put children in cages and separated families, that's a non-starter for me. So I would obviously vote blue because I think that the cult of personality has captured so many people that they don't understand that you can't say, yeah, this person is racist, but that's okay. Because if you think that that's okay, you're saying racism is okay. You're saying misogyny is okay. You're saying anti-Muslim hatred is okay. You're saying hating poor people is okay. And I can't say you can't be a good person and still believe that those things are going to be okay because you got $1,000 check with his name on it. And by the way, that was your money. That
Yeah.
was money.
Well, that is the thing that a lot of people are saying. Oh, this is the only president that ever gave us money. Well, every country gave out money to its citizens during COVID, so that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And we didn't get as much in America as a lot of other
I don't know. I
countries.
got a couple of checks from presidents in the past. I'll tell you who it is in a minute when it comes to me.
But the thing about it, I think the thing that's most important, and
Money from him and his dad.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that people not be hooked into a frenzy during this election, because there's going to be a lot more drama. And I mean, that whole assassination attempt, that's a show in itself. So, when things start happening, and America keeps having all these dramas. I mean, there was the hanging Chad incident with, the Bushes and all that. There's always some kind of drama going on, and there's always some panic that's being whipped up on both sides. Everybody feeling like, just like the all the people storming the Capitol building, talking about they stormed the election. When people can be manipulated into doing stupid things, and there's a whole bunch of people that's still doing time because they stupidly thought, yeah, we're going to take back our country. So, facial recognition, they got arrested, they got jailed. that was dumb. And people could say, well, would a defeat of President Trump push people to do something that ignorant again? If Kamala Harris were to get elected, would it be a backlash against women, against Black people, against people whose parents are immigrants, whatever anti-thing a person is? Would that provoke the ignorant among us to do something just as stupid?
It would not surprise me, because his whole presidency was a backlash against having a Black president.
So once again, we're faced with the elephant in the room in America, this racial hatred or fear. It's really fear. It's fear of people taking.
It's fear of the majority finally taking the global, their place. It's fear of loss of entitlement, that you are entitled to be the best. This was a man who was the least qualified human being on the planet, taking over because he was allegedly rich and had all these successful businesses, all of whom went bankrupt. He was already convicted of fraud many times, and yet, because he was rich, allegedly, and white, that was enough. That was enough. And people need to face their prejudices, because as long as we still think that only white people can lead us, we will be led to that road of where, that goes with good intentions or bad intentions. So,
well, I think that's the thing we're going to discover about ourselves. No matter who gets elected, it's a reflection of ourselves. How do we feel about ourselves, and what are we believing about who is qualified to be a leader? So we're going to find that out, and then we'll know. And we can't blame anybody but ourselves, no matter who gets elected.
That's right.
So we've got to go, people. We're so glad you stayed with us for a whole hour talking about this. Keep watching the news. It's going to get even more dramatic in the week.
It's going to get hot in here.
Get out of here. So,
register to vote. Register to vote. I don't care. If you end up being a Trump supporter, well, I'll pray for that. But you know what? Your voice matters. Don't stay home. Use your voice, use your vote, and then you can press on and you can push these politicians to do what you want, because they do work for you.
Yes.
They work for you. So if this is the closest that you can get as close as you can to that bus stop where your destination, and then you just keep pushing that person to get to where you want. But if
and take the train.
but if you don't vote, you're giving up your power. You're giving up your right to complain. And if you're Black, you're spitting in the faces of all those who died because they tried to vote. Think about it.
Think about it. Well, on that note, make sure you like and subscribe our Facebook page and YouTube channel, 3 Black Moms. And until next week, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl, turning the temperature down now.
And I'm Barbara. We are 3 Black Moms. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black Moms.